Hello and welcome to the Bechdel Theatre podcast. I'm Pippa and I'm your host. So welcome back. This is our first episode since the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We've needed a little break to kind of recoup and get ourselves back together and go back to our day jobs and plan what we will have coming for the winter months and for the new year. This episode, we were incredibly privileged to talk to two performers from Shotgun Carousel's newest production, Red Palace, on at the Vaults. We spoke to Camilla Harding and Porscha Present, who were both amazing, incredible, generous human beings who gave us an inside scoop as to what it's like to work on an immersive theatre production. We got to go see the show the other day and it was spooky and fun and scary and wonderful and heartwarming and exciting. We are so lucky that we got to interview two incredible performers from the show, and we thought it would fit right well in with a kind of spooky, kind of gothic twisted fairy tale Halloween-ish episode. So we hope you enjoy this episode for kind of Halloween weekend, and if you stick around to the end, of course Beth will be there giving you a list of recommends to see for the upcoming month. So without further ado, enjoy the interview.
Hi, we are here at the Vaults inside the set of the immersive dining cabaret experience Red Palace with two of the lovely cast members from Red Palace, Porscha and Millie. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Hello, I'm Porscha and I play Mermaid and Baba Yaga, and I am a singer and pianist and performer and tutor.
Hello, I'm Millie, pronouns she or they, and I am a performer, actor, drag-dabbler. In the show I play Wolf, a character that shall remain nameless.
Another character.
And the Prince.
Now, just as a precursor to our listeners, we are in the space, and as you know, Vaults is under the underground. Is that right? For the trains?
Under the main trains.
Under the main trains. So we've been sat in here for a bit, and so there will be trains going overhead.
It's atmosphere. Deal with it.
It's atmosphere. Yes, but
It's part and parcel of an immersive.
But if you could
theatre.
imagine, we're in like a pink boudoir with like drapey, silky fabrics everywhere and lots of sparkles.
It's like my femme fantasy.
Yeah, because this what is normally a dingy tunnel has been transformed for the purposes of Red Palace.
Yeah. So we would love to talk to you about Red Palace. We came to see it last night to also give listeners who might not have heard of it a bit of background. As audience members, you are invited to dress up as if you're going to a big fairy tale banquet. So we donned our glad rags and we got to have a package that includes dining with the show. So we had a delicious 3-course meal.
It's so good.
It was so good.
So
we could do a
good.
whole review of the food. And then we were invited to join the experience of the show. That's our first train going overhead. How do you describe what the show is when you tell like friends and family what it is you're doing?
One of my partners summed it up really well, and I'm trying to remember.
Have they seen it?
Not yet.
Okay.
But from all of my enthusiastic, like, post-rehearsal coming from, I'm doing this and it's amazing. They said a bunch of queers fucking with fairy tales.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Yes, please.
Yeah.
It does sum it up really well as someone who's seen it. So the show incorporates fairy tales, characters we know, and I remember when we saw the kind of casting call going out for performers, you know, months ago, and I think there was, you know, requirements for people who had experience of cabaret and experience of immersive theatre, circus, people who were used to working in kind of queer spaces or queer theatre and also working with different types of audiences. I'm really keen to know about the kind of auditioning, if it was audition-y or like getting cast process, because how much of it was looking at the content of the show and how much of it was like, we know there's loads of amazing performers, what can you bring to us? And did that stand out to maybe other processes you've experienced?
For me, what stood out, and I think what also hit me throughout the rehearsal process was just how open and relaxed and wanting they were of you as a performer and a person and what you could bring to it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about, I'm looking for this, you've got to fit these particular roles, and this is the height and the hair colour and eye colour that I want. It was left very open, which gave a lot of freedom, especially when you're multi-rolling as well.
Yeah, I think quite important.
Because you're going to put your spin on it anyway, and also learning from each other. So
yeah,
I don't know how you found the
I
audition
found a lot
process.
of learning. Oh yeah, the audition. Very free. So I know Laura and Celine from before, but it's still very nerve-wracking.
And they're the producer and director?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was when they said to bring like an additional skill, I found that really exciting. So I was like, this is something that's really personal to myself. And as you said, they want to see every bit of you. And
What was your skill?
singing with the guitar.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
What was your skill, Millie?
I sent a video of me doing a little cabaret strip routine.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah. Were you in drag?
Yeah, I do like a half and half, because I auditioned for Hansel and Gretel as well.
Oh, so do you audition for roles?
We had different monologues
To read, yeah.
and I think I had Cat, Hansel and Gretel, Wolf. I'd never read Prince in my audition, so that was a really big.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so one of the monologues they got me to do as the character, now with hindsight I could see, oh, that was what you're looking for with Prince. I was like, this is a very interesting take on this particular character. Be a bit of a psychopath, okay?
Who were you reading as a psychopath?
The character that shall remain nameless.
Okay.
The nameless character.
Nameless character.
I also read The Nameless Character and Cat and Baba and Mermaid, who I am. Yeah, I think that's it.
So what was the script like when you first got your hands on it? Was it exactly what we see when we come to see it, or was it developed through the rehearsal process? Did you have any kind of, because I know they were working with who you are in terms of your casting, whether you had any kind of conversations about the script or creative process in the rehearsal room?
Continuous conversations, which was lovely.
Yeah.
We started with the big read through, and one of the things that I really felt that again was taking us all into consideration was like anything in the script that you feel needs to be brought up or challenged or taken out or changed. That was brought forward from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think many more table reads rehearsal spaces probably need.
Right?
Need that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like is that a usual thing that happens at the beginning of a show, like reading
Table
through?
read, yeah.
Some kind of read through.
But I think different directors and writers will be at different stages in terms of how complete the script is and how much the performers get to bring in terms of saying whether they don't like something or whether they would like have something to contribute further. And sometimes it will be very rigid. Sometimes it will just be at the director's say. Sometimes they'll ask the performers. It really depends. That's why I was interested in this, because it seems like each of the characters seems so distinctive and might be maybe played differently by the different actors who play, because so the Prince will be played by a different actor depending on what night you come to see it, and Baba Yaga will be played by a different person depending when you come and see it. So I'm wondering, like, how much you were able to bring your individuality that was so championed in the audition process into each of those roles.
I think I know for sure that the Prince changed quite considerably. For me, I think reading it was very much like, he is a psychopath, full stop, like, take it like that and run with it. And then actually what I found quite interesting and now doing it is using that charm element of like charming people and kind of getting them on your side and then flipping the script on them during the show.
It works. so many people don't think the prince is a psychopath.
Prince is horrible.
They're like, oh, he's nice and charming
He's
and
really
handsome.
lovely, yeah. And
I
then
really
they're like-
fancied him at the beginning.
Which is
Yeah.
We were in like we
charm.
were in the balcony. It's true. It's very true.
Yeah,
he
'cause
won
we-
us over.
Because we were like his loyal subjects, like, well, no, we were like the royalty. So he was
Oh,
like,
you get the full
the
prince
prince-
experience.
the
Yeah.
prince was like teaching us the royal wave and stuff, and we felt really like we were
Charmed.
his special people. Yeah, it was. I liked him.
Yeah. So with the multi-rolling, is there combinations that are set, or is it like it gets switched up depending on maybe like the performer's preference? Obviously, I know that it's not like you turn up and you don't know what you're playing, but like, are there just like very like specific who's playing who when, or is there like a bit more flexibility with it?
We can swap between us, but we
Ah.
generally don't choose. I think it's more to do with our availability.
Ah.
Who's here, and then I guess Ruth, our stage manager, just tries to make it more rejiggly. But then
She
with
plays, person Jenga. I feel like. I don't know
Yeah.
how she does it,
It's
how she
quite-
does
quite
everything, put
difficult
everything
job, I think.
together.
Quite like a producing
Rotoring.
role.
Yeah, very short people. Wow.
Yeah.
And then obviously things come up and life happens, so there have been a few times where
Yeah.
I've come in and been like, oh, okay, we're playing a different person today, or you've come in to
Okay.
cover someone else, or,
Yeah.
which keeps it really fresh actually. And I think you were
Yeah.
saying this yesterday, how definitely not bored of it yet, but
Yeah.
partly because
I'm
it's
not bored.
not you're not gonna, the combinations of cast, so like there are like Reds that haven't played opposite as the Prince, and like loads of characters that I've not played opposite, and performers, like
Yeah.
combinations
Yeah,
within
yeah.
scenes,
Mm.
which obviously changes it.
And I guess because there's so much interaction with the audiences as well, because the
Exactly.
audience feels so like essential to the piece happening, and the audience are part of the show. So obviously you've got different people coming in every night. So even if you're playing the same character 2 nights in a row, I imagine there's quite a lot of difference and
Massively.
flexibility in
And
the way
also
you play that character.
It becomes an absolute gift as well to be like, oh, I did this last night, but also then I can work with that and change that and have more fun playing with it, rather than we're doing the same thing exactly at the same time, the same kind of audience who are just going to sit there in the dark and not give you any interaction or any feedback.
When you were rehearsing it, did you take turns playing the audience, or did you
Yeah.
how does that work?
Critical mass. We call that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Did you play out different scenarios of like different things the audience might do if they were like really shy or like really naughty?
We had a lot of really horrible office party people. So
Yeah.
I remember playing a lot of.
Have you had lots of office parties in?
Not
as
yeah.
many as we-
Shows until
I've
January.
seen, yeah.
Christmas
Christmas
party.
time is just gonna get
More
office
raucous.
party.
Right.
We're workers, but like daytime workers.
Yeah.
Drinking in
Excited
the
suits.
Yeah.
Set free into the world of queer cabaret.
Yeah.
We didn't play shy audiences though, which we should have done, I think.
Definitely did.
Did you? Oh.
I think you're much nicer than me.
Like, I feel like in the rehearsal, I would have liked more people. I mean, it's great that people were talking, but what I always forget is that audiences can be really shy, and then they just look at you and just keep still. Like, if I keep still, she won't see me. Which happens on like a Tuesday, or the rare Tuesdays that I've done, or a Sunday, like a Wednesday or
When
Thursday.
people-
And you
Well,
ask questions as well. So we saw you as the mermaid last night, and a lot of what the mermaid does is talks about ask questions of the audience. And do you have? I'm sure you have those moments where the audience member just does not want to play.
Yeah.
Or
Or the person next to them speaks instead.
yeah.
Or I just have to go, okay. If I quite ask a question about the prince, and lots of times people are like just silent, don't say anything, or they say lots. When they're silent, no one says anything. I'm kind of like, oh, did he scare you? He's like beaten you down, has he? And then someone will then be like, oh, he's not very nice, or he's quite scary, or like.
So you
something
start
like
asking
that.
kind of leading questions
Yeah.
to help people out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Also thinking about, because I'm in in most of the work and everything I do, I am in quite a bubble in terms of like it being very like women, non-binary, queer, trans-led, and then you go into a space like this, or like even really randomly, like a separate course I'm doing that's like total mixed genders, and how much I notice, the men will be the first to like interact and be the first to be like, I have an answer and all this stuff. And I was noticing in many ways that playing out last night, like it would be the people I'm reading as guys would be, you know, the more likely to be like, oh yeah, I'll answer that question.
Or I'll try and tell a joke.
Or one up a performer.
Many. So I have, in my little room in the dungeon, the whole setup is playing a game. So the only night, I think that it was possibly last night, one of the loops was the only loop I've had where people really did not want to play. And it was a mixture of like people just not listening, you know, really enjoying the space and looking at it and being there, but also just not wanting to take anything in, or could be like absolutely scared and just not wanting, like not able to speak. I can't, this is two very different things. It's like you're split down the middle. How do I navigate both of these? But yeah, bringing kind of tasteless jokes from certain audience members into spaces like that is a difficult thing to navigate.
Ooh,
and it's something that I've not really worked with before, having done interactive theatre but in very much that queer bubble.
And also because it's a very intimate space that you're in when you're in the dungeon as well. Like you're very close to people. There's not a line in the way that I guess the Mermaid is like situated on a spot that's quite high up and has like almost a boundary between performer and audience member, whereas when you're in a tiny intimate space one-on-one, it I guess maybe can be potentially boundary crossing for the audience members who might be shy, and maybe for the performer as well.
It's intimidating for both of you, definitely, especially as a performer if you're relying on that interaction. Again, there are little tricks and ways of getting around it, and also just reminding them, like, it's okay, like, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We're here to play. Like,
we're not gonna,
fun.
I guess people might get like that a little bit with Baba Yaga, because it's like there's this situation where there might be spirits in the room. It's kind of a scary, almost a seance-y experience. Do people ever get worried about that? Or
not that I've seen when I've been Baba. I've had people giggling, but people laugh when they're uncomfortable, or I do, and I've noticed other people do. But I haven't seen anyone that's actually been genuinely quite scared. And that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, how do you help that person when you're like mid-seance?
Holding hands with them.
Something to think about. I think,
Have you had anyone be like purposely disruptive or anything? Someone was laughing quite a lot, and I was like, are you uncomfortable, or are you just laughing because I don't know. So I just said people laugh when they're uncomfortable, and they sort of like simmered down their laughter. And as Baba, I feel like I get quite like Nina Simone-esque anyway when I'm performing and people are talking over me. So as Baba, I'll just shut them down. I actually told someone to shut the fuck up. I was like, don't talk over me. You're in my room. Who do you think you are? And they were like silent for the rest of the show. Yeah. It's fun when you've got those characters that can shut people down.
Yeah. It's just rude. Like, you wouldn't, in a group setting, you wouldn't talk over someone that loudly. And it's like, if you want to talk, you can go somewhere else and talk, or talk quieter.
Have you got any, like, I know you probably, you get to play different characters a lot and different scenarios a lot. Do you have any, like, favourite moments that you really look forward to playing? Or, like, favourite characters that you're really like, I like that character because I get to shout at people, or I like that character because I get to wear this makeup, or...
It really depends for me on my mood, and also, like, how many characters I've been, like, previously. If I do, like, a stretch of the prince, I do get into that very much like big dick energy, like rah rah rah, I'm the most important person, you can all fuck off, which is great for my ego. Maybe so not great for my relationships with people.
The prince bleeding into real life.
And I've come like back home to partners, and they've been like, have you been playing the prince today? And I'm like, yes, how can you tell?
What do you mean, have I been playing the prince?
I am the prince.
I'll just take off my crown.
quite sweet as the character we saw you last night.
Yeah, but that is. But so after playing someone like the Prince, doing
the character that is
doing
unnamed.
the unnamed character is a massive like liberation and joy, because it is just so. It's the complete flip side.
That was
really
a really
fun,
cute character.
really sweet. Yeah.
I wish we got to see more of him.
Yeah.
Come back.
I know, yeah, because you can get a different experience.
Yeah. We'll have to be like, sorry, we didn't see all the rooms. We need to return. I have to say, I was really jealous of the mermaid costume.
Oh my god!
Like, I have craved a costume like that since I knew what a mermaid was. It is the perfect mermaid costume. Yeah. Is it a dream? Is it a dream come true?
Now that I'm used to quickly doing the change, doing like the makeup still takes a long time, but like,
do you do your own
harnessing
makeup?
We do.
Wow.
Yeah, Portia's makeup skills are just fantastic.
Did you
It's a
design
joy
your
to
makeup
be-
yourself?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
god.
it also changes every night. That's
Yeah,
the
I've
beauty.
been
I
experimenting
really
a
love
lot.
watching you get ready. That sounds really creepy,
A
but
time lapse. in
you
the
so
corner of the room.
should.
Oh my god, I would love to see a time lapse. Do
Yeah.
one every day.
I might do
Your
one
makeup
next
was
time.
so incredible. I was
Thank
like,
you.
who do they get in to do this? You do it yourself.
Yeah, I've had a lot of help along the line. Like, I don't know if you know Luke Harris, Lukila. He is an amazing makeup artist, and he taught me a lot of what I'm doing on my face just in the last summer, like in one sitting. And like the show before that with Shotgun, I learned some stuff. And like talking to people around me, I'm like, what do you think I should do here? So it's kind of like a collaborative.
I wanted to actually ask about, like, because the previous show, Divine Proportions, we did come to that. How is it, like, how is this different for anyone who might have gone to Divine Proportions and thinking, oh, I've seen Shotgun Carousel, is this...
Don't expect the same.
Don't expect the
I
same.
think is the thing there. So much bigger for one. Completely different format. Like you're not eating. You are eating and watching the show, but you eat and then you then watch more. It's my boyfriend said it was much more not inclusive, accessible.
Okay.
For more people. Because I feel like the last one could have been quite scary, even more scarier for people. They don't feel comfortable in themselves. And this one I feel like it's a bit more, you can sort of hide away a little bit more if you want to. You can hang out at the back. And I feel like there's a lot more relatable characters in this one. Because like it was all gods and like maenads, which is like so otherworldly.
Yeah, I guess this show does play with themes that we're all quite familiar with, or characters that a lot of people might have noticed before or seen before in some form or other.
Yeah.
So...
But I really enjoyed how there wasn't, like, you know, they didn't have to be like a really obvious like aesthetic for any of the characters to be like, oh, like Snow wasn't like in the kind of typical Disney princess dress you'd imagine Snow White to be in. It was like all pink and very like 40s and stuff. And like the wolf is like fetish, like kind of like
really
fetish,
really objects
kink
to being
person.
called bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like, yeah, it's like even a subversion of these characters, which I really liked, because you meet a character and you wouldn't know who they were until you had it, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense.
But at the same time, it does make it accessible when you're like, the trope of like the prince is the power figure, and then you've got something to subvert. Whereas I guess something like you were saying about Divine Proportions, Dionysus, maybe not everyone's heard of, and the Maenads, what even are they?
Yeah.
I mean, we loved it because we were like, oh, spooky like creatures from another realm, or like, you know, the idea of gods obviously is relatable, but I guess fairy tales, you can use a bit more shorthand.
Yeah,
with
everyone's
people.
read or had some kind of fairy tale or story growing up, and even if it wasn't the same, like even if you've never heard of like Little Red Riding Hood, there's usually something like to do with revenge or some kind of trope or subject that you can relate to.
Yeah.
And that's really fun, actually, getting audience reactions to that. I think, Red does ask, like, who has a grudge? And how do you get over it?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
To like, for people to accept that they hold grudges. It's a really good like question to ask yourself.
Is that the question of Red Palace? How to get over
how
a
do you
grudge?
How do you get over a grudge?
Kill
How do you
them.
move? Yeah, that's the take home. That's it. The end.
It's funny. It does sort of play with the idea that everyone sort of thinks they know the ending to fairy tales, like, oh, happily ever after, but actually a lot of fairy tales are like warning tales or aren't.
Tell
there's
that to
lots of
Angela
different-
Carter.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of different versions, and they are stories that you can kind of reclaim in a way. Do you feel like that's something you've been able to do, looking back at fairy tales in your childhood or youth or whatever? You connected with them in a different way through this show?
I think for me, with this process specifically, gender has been a big thing. We had a lot of conversations in the rehearsal room, which, again, it was an absolute joy to have, and they should be happening more. Like, what gender is this character? Like, we're not going to put any preconceptions, like, what do you see in this character? And we had a whole, again, going back to the prince is on my mind today. And we've had a whole talk about, like, the sexuality of the prince, and for me, when I play him, it's very much like, is there some closet queerness going there, and he's taking all his frustration out on the people around him. And
I can feel that.
when I play and then also, the sexuality and the gender of the unnamed character, who, we decided on they, them pronouns. And then that, again, gives you a lot of freedom of bringing you as a person, but also as a performer. And when, like, fairy tales are so, like, far-reaching and also fantastical, why, I'm just having a little bit of a gender thing now, of, like, why is it taking this long for us to now talk about gender within performance in a way that is not so binary and so closed of it's either this or this, and I'm giving you this character.
I really like that that's like really like a new lens or angle, maybe, not to make assumptions, but maybe for this kind of show's audience. Like, as I say, like, I'm so used to queer bubbles that, like, I can be, like, very open to that kind of lens, but, like, for, like, a mainstream, whatever that means, like, audience coming to see this show, it's like, oh yes, they get to rethink all these kind of archetypal stock characters or fairy tales and think about them in a new way.
Or not. Some people are very much, those I found the audience members the most challenging, of those who are refusing to, like, see what's in front of them. Like, I've had a few audience members come up and be like, okay, so the prince is definitely the goodie and we're going to help him escape.
Oh, that's interesting.
Lots of people love the prince.
Wow.
People love the prince.
Have you been watching what's going? Have you been listening, or is it literally just like, that's the archetype, therefore they are the winner?
Male
They-
protagonists.
they-
It's like, oh, they must be the good guy.
Yeah,
That's how it
therefore-
works.
The hero.
Yeah, he is the hero.
Yeah.
So interesting.
The attractive hot hero.
Yeah.
Tell you what, the prince did make me think about a lot was how I've talked about this before, but how, like, the principal boy in Panto, and how that's usually a woman playing the male romantic lead character, and how, like, society's just like, cool, that's what we do every Christmas, is we watch the princess get married to a woman in a pair of high boots. And I'm like, I remember watching it as a child and thinking, yeah, this is great, this is cool. And so it's, in a way, like, subverting, but also kind of, there feels like there might be a bit of a wink and a nod to that tradition, maybe in the way that audience members do accept the prince, and they're not like, whoa, why is that person, that's not a man, oh, what's, I'm confused
Some
about
people
gender.
do.
Are they?
They're very much like, oh, it's a woman.
They can't get rid of
That's-
Yeah, but it's also
Really
fairy tales.
bizarre.
Like, there's a singing mermaid, and that you're happily willing to accept. But
And
like,
also, like,
the gender
as
of a
kids,
character.
we used to play princes and princesses, and it didn't have to be that the boy plays the prince and the girl plays the prince. I used to love playing Peter Pan and being Peter Pan in the playground,
Yeah.
and, like, switching it up and playing a pirate the next day, which kind of feels like why this would be like kind of a dream acting job in a way. It's like, do you want to play the prince or do you want to play the princess? Depends on the day. Yeah. I'm fascinated that people don't accept the prince, because I just thought, oh, they'll all accept the prince because everyone has seen a panto where the prince.
It's interesting how it seems that, okay, so on that, there's spaces where it's deemed acceptable or respectable.
Yeah.
But like outside of those spaces, like outside of the, facade of like panto,
Yeah.
in a setting like this, or without it being overtly like a pantomime at Christmas,
Yeah.
like people don't accept it.
And I wonder if it's also people that may have never been to the theatre before and are coming for an experience and coming for like a night out, where they might not even realise just how immersive or how interactive a piece like this might be. It might have just been, good night out, have some drinks, dress up and be entertained. And so I wonder if there's an element of that.
Yeah, and like how much, I often wonder with these things, how much people who go maybe are like immersive geeks, in the sense of like go to lots of immersive events. Like I got like free tickets to see the Secret Cinema show recently, which was so random. It was the Casino Royale one.
I was there.
Oh really?
Maybe not when you were there.
Oh okay.
But
Yeah.
Performing?
Oh were you? Okay. Well, I'd love to talk to you about your experience of like both, because I hadn't been to a Secret Cinema show for like a few years, so I couldn't really remember how it worked, but I loved seeing just like audience members just dressing up and just taking part in all of that. Same with here last night, like, and you're given a bit more with Secret Cinema because you have your character and you come up with your name beforehand and all those kinds of rules. And I really liked that it was like, I wasn't walking into like a wanky casino, I was walking into like a pretend wanky casino, and everyone was like dressing up in their like posh clothing, but like we all knew it was not real, and it was just really cute seeing people play. Seeing people play, I think that's
one of the big joys of this job, when audience members take it and run with it.
yeah.
And run with it within the confines of how we've set it up. It's an absolute joy. Because you're
Yeah.
like, yes, this is why we do this. Like, there's a connection happening, or you're enjoying yourself and you're running with it. And, it is absolute joy.
When they believe it.
Yeah, but believe it so wholeheartedly. Like, yes.
Yeah.
That's really lovely. It made me think of, I went to see like a completely different thing, but immersive experience. I went to the Royal Court to see Dismantle This Room, to take part in it. And there were people there. There was like a young person, like maybe in their 20s, and then like a father-daughter who were all like super into immersive experiences, and particularly the dad and daughter, their thing is going to escape rooms together. So they'd gone to Dismantle This Room at the Royal Court. They'd never been to the Royal Court before because they were excited by participating in something and like
it was like a theatre escape
playing
room
a role.
show.
It was a theatre escape room, playing a character, playing a role for solving a puzzle. And when we got in there, it was like very much about the theatre industry, and all of the clues were like, picking out like the name of a theatre from a like a code, or like knowing what certain artistic directors do, what the Olivier's symbolise, all of these little in-jokes. And I was really like, oh my God, I'm getting it, I'm solving all the clues, I'm like keen to get it right and like tick all the boxes. And we were asked to do it as ourselves. And I felt like those people all slightly stepped back because they weren't given a character to play, and they didn't know the world that they were in. We all like had a drink in the bar afterwards, which is one of those really cute things with like immersive experiences where you like bond with the people that you've gone round with, or like we were chatting. We were chatting next to the people we were sat with at dinner at Red Palace. So I did that thing at the Royal Court where I went with these people and like had a drink with them in the bar afterwards, and they were like, yeah, it wasn't as good as other escape rooms we've done because we didn't really like understand what was going on, and I didn't understand whether we were meant to be the artistic director or whether we were meant to be. And I was a bit like, oh God, like I wish I'd been given more of a role in, or I'd been able to. I felt a lot of responsibility as their fellow audience member, that I should have been like, right, this is the role and this is how we play it, and establishing that boundary. Because in Red Palace there was this great moment where the prince says, you've put on your mask, you've got a new name. Turn to the person next to you and introduce yourself with your new name. And Pippa and I invented new names for each other, turned around to the people next to us and introduced ourselves and said like what our jobs in the court were and blah, blah, blah. And there was that moment of like, aha, okay, we're not playing ourselves. We don't have to be ourselves anymore. We're pretending. We're not in the real world. We don't have to know all the answers. We don't have to solve a puzzle, although there were puzzles to be solved on the way. But it wasn't like, it didn't quite have the pressure of like some maybe escape room style immersive experiences. But it's amazing how much this whole, I'd never even heard of an immersive experience 10 years ago, and now there's all these different kinds.
Exactly.
Dining experience, there's, you know, like experiences
Well,
where
there has been the Faulty Towers dining experience for
about
a
10 years.
long while.
And then the ones like You Me Bum Bum Train where you go round on your own.
I've heard of that one. That was the first one I heard of. Oh no, Punch Drunk.
Oh,
Punch
yeah,
Drunk,
Punch
yeah.
Drunk.
Where you wear a mask.
Sleep No
actually.
More.
Yeah.
That was 17, I think.
Yeah.
I think Mask of the Red Death was the first. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Punch Drunk?
One of the
And that
first.
isn't the Mask of the Red Death, like the Edgar Allan Poe story, one of the inspirations for Red Palace as well.
Yeah.
Amazing how that lends itself so well. I think anything with like gothic imagery is really.
But I think also this idea of taking on another character, and I think it might be an old draft of the script where the prince says, your mask is your ticket to endless pleasure, but also it creates that barrier between you and death, or also you and another person. Like,
Oh my god, sorry.
no, yeah, go
I was
for
just
it.
going to say, I went to a Punch Drunk show like years ago when I was at uni, and I was fucking terrified. Like, I was so scared because I like got separated from my friends. I was wearing a mask. I didn't know what was going on, and then this. And obviously, like, everyone was the same mask except the performers. And then this woman a performer, like, came up to me and took me off into a room on my own with her. And I was like, and I was just really scared. Like, I was like, what's going to happen? And then she, like, just, like, came up to me, like, very intimately and just took my mask off. And I was, like, suddenly, like, I felt so exposed. And I was like, what's going on? It's, like, really intimate. And then, I felt looked after, but also, like, very scared. But then I also realized performer's vulnerability, because then that scene was like she was getting changed to meet someone, so I was helping her get changed, and like and then she like put the mask back on me before like I went outside. But it was like she didn't interact with me as a character in that scene. I was very much a fly on the wall, but she was including me in it and being like, I know you're here, but like I'm looking after you.
Do you think that was because I felt with Punch Drunk that if you took off your mask, like someone would come and swoop down and like tell you to put it back on?
Yeah.
Which meant that taking it off was a massive thing.
Yeah, I felt suddenly so vulnerable because my mask had been taken off, and that to me was what was giving me comfort in that space, because I was like really scared at looking at everyone's masks, but then having my own, I felt a bit more, I felt like I was looking after myself wearing one. So when it was taken off me, not by choice, I was like, ooh. But
consent is also really good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I think especially within interactive and
How do you negotiate consent with the performer audience dynamic?
Say
ask,
it.
may I? Can
Yeah.
I?
If I go to touch them, I'm like, can I touch you? And then usually when I ask, they're like, what are you going to do? But I feel like it's good to say it, because then people forget how important it is to ask before you touch someone.
Do you
But you
ever
don't know.
worry that they might feel pressured to say yes because you're a performer and they're wanting to go along with and do the right thing?
There's there's a moment when I'm playing games in the dungeon where I do need someone to offer me something, and I've had every single night's been absolutely fine, apart from the other night where no one was like, no,
quiet.
no, not doing it, no, and I was like, kind of need this to happen so that the scene can move on. Like, we're going to be stuck in a
Also,
dungeon
like, we've
for
got time
a
here.
while. I don't know about you, but like to leave at some point. So I'm very, very happy for my scene partner at that point. Whoever was playing cat was like, you. I think there's volunteer here, because they'd had a little bit of a chat beforehand.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow, yes.
But that's, so it depends on the person. And also if you're I've been to interactive experiences where I've just gone and been like, I'm just going to try and ruin things, or just, you know.
You become a maverick, right?
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to make it different just for me. And you're like, no, that's not playing the game. That's just being a dick.
A lot of people choose to do that.
I can't believe you just admitted to being that
I know,
person.
I have.
Oh my God.
What
Did
to
you get put in your
accept
place?
shadow. It's important.
I'm
Yeah.
learning from my past.
I guess that must
mistakes.
give you like an insight into what's going through the heads of the people who
Definitely.
are playing art.
And you can spot them
Hobby.
from a mile. Well, I can usually spot
Yeah.
them from a mile off. And it's, yeah, you can either put them in your place, or you can play the game with them for a little bit and then be like, who?
Done now.
Yeah, well, who? It's only ruining. I mean, I can wait here as long as you can, but no one else is having a good time, and I don't think this is going to carry on for much. Do you want to? Okay, let's carry on playing the game. I think, yeah, let's do that. So,
There must be a lot of pressure though, because as audience members you're moving around different rooms, and I'm assuming all the scenes have to finish at the same time to get audiences into different places. Like, are you constantly kind of like, okay, I can't interact too long with this person because I need to like do the scene and it needs to finish at the right time? And
Yeah. Yes and no.
right.
Yes and no, because it's so lovely and organic when you get someone who's like rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. But then also you don't want to rush the later part, because then you're like, and now I'm gonna sing.
hitting my time cues.
Yeah.
It's all that matters right
Yeah.
now.
It's like a happy balance, I think, between the two. Works really well.
And I think, yeah, there have been times where I'm definitely aware of, right, we just need to just
Go.
keep going, because otherwise it's really going to mess it up. And then times when I think you get to know the moments where you can afford to eke it out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking back to this room. We thought we'd have to miss a loop, and then we had two people brought in, a couple, who were just, it was like a one-on-one experience for them, but it was just so joyous. One of my favourite scenes in this room, because they were playing the game and they loved it, and we had so much time, because it was just two people, to really enjoy that time.
Yeah.
So I think the way that the sound's been designed, the way the show's been designed, and it's just a huge kudos to the whole creative team of that they've given us time to play
Yeah.
within the scene. Yeah, I think there'd be nothing worse if you were just constantly, especially as a performer, do this, no time,
Yeah.
right, just get through this, say your lines and leave.
Yeah, yeah. Belle said something really that's like stuck in my head this week. She said that there's no point doing something faster because it ruins it for the performance. Like it's all about timing and pace. So there's no point trying to rush through it, as you said. Like just feel it, let it flow.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah, I did get a sense of that with all the performers we saw last night, was that once we were when you're in the corridor, it can feel a bit like, oh my God, we've got to get into the next room, and it's a bit blah, blah, blah. But then each room feels like a little sanctuary, and like you really have gone into the character's whole world, because the room is set up to reflect who the character is, and you quickly get a sense of who they are. And the performers seem so, sort of, all of you seem so relaxed and like confident in your character that it really it was quick to be established what the relationship between the audience and the character were, and then we could just let it happen, and like the boundaries seemed quite clear of like when was the time to interact, what kind of like, interaction was appropriate, almost like magically established without the audience having to worry too much about, oh, am I meant to answer this question or not? Yeah, it was very nice from all of you.
I was going to ask, are there any characters, either other characters that exist in the show that you're like, oh, I just want to do one night as that character and see like what comes through? Or are there any other fairy tale characters you wish were in the show?
Oh,
Who would you like to
fairy tale
be?
characters that we wish were in
Yeah,
the show?
both. Like, who would you like to play that's already in the show, and who would you love to have seen in the show but like isn't in it?
I would love to be Prince. I just love being mean because I'm generally quite like overkind to
You
people.
are so lovely. You are one of the nicest people I think I've ever met, and it's quite a joy to see you. I
I
really
love
enjoy
it.
watching you as
I
Prince.
take it too far sometimes, but so I think as Prince I'd be quite disgusting. Like I think I'd be like American as well. And I'd love to be Gretel and Hansel because I love that really sort of, I love that character, but I don't want to say too much.
I love that character. That would be the character that I would want to play.
Yeah, I thought it would be.
Yeah. I'm so predictable.
And Wolf as well. I'd love to be like.
Oh, I really love Wolf.
I think they're
Wolf
all
has a
such
great
good
costume.
characters.
Wolf for the costume alone. I put on that costume and it's,
That leather
Yeah, I
costume.
wanted to
like,
try it
oh,
on.
yes.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Power and just how
Exactly.
you look.
And then just affects how you move, and that's huge thing for me as a performer, moving in the costume. Definitely Hansel and Gretel. I think it's a bit of a performer's dream, right? Two
Yeah.
characters and
And you're like host. Yeah.
you can
You're
definitely
hosting
say
a
that.
cabaret,
Yeah.
which is like so much fun, but it's quite a challenge in that room because it's like a bar as well. So people are like, "Is it a performance? Am I at the bar? What's the rules?"
Huge
here?"
kudos to all of the performers that do that,
Yeah.
holding the attention of a room and also entertaining at the same time,
Yeah.
and doing a dance and playing more than one character. Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm trying to think of other fairy tale characters I'd like to see.
That's a really good question.
I
I
think
suppose we
Beauty
do
would be a
it.
good one.
Yeah, I was just thinking because we do it with Snow, but subverting that kind of fairy tale princess.
Yeah, because Snow seems, although like the kind of hyper femme, hyper pink princessy side, but also quite smart and like
Canny and
a bit of independence. Not, I guess some of the Disney princesses have that, and some of the fairy tale princesses have that, but I really warmed to Snow. I would have liked to have seen the Three Little Pigs.
Oh, imagine 3 little.
Because I love
Like
the
running
animals. I love the
around.
wolf and the cat, and I was like, I want some more animals.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that would be
Pigs.
cool. I feel like I have to
Yeah.
mull over that question.
What other fairy tales?
Well, I was
We've
thinking
had
of the 3 bears, and I was like, it could be like bears, like gay bears.
Oh my god!
I love that.
Courage. Those
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
Who would Goldilocks be in that situation?
Yeah. God,
We've had a
She's
few.
probably very misunderstood. She probably came from a background, a very poor background, didn't have any food.
Yeah.
My idea of Goldilocks is just very greedy and
Spoiled
naughty.
brat.
Yeah, but maybe she
She's the original squatter.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually reclaiming some space.
Like,
Yeah.
you
Who are
leave
the
your
bears?
porridge
Yeah.
uneaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the bears just 3 levels of gentrification that have moved in, and
Ah,
Goldilocks
yeah.
is actually just reclaiming and
Yeah.
protesting.
Or the other way around, she
Amazing.
could be a white colonizer.
Yeah.
Oh my god! So many readings.
Yeah. Right, well, I think it's time for Feminist Faves.
Yes.
Yes. So, Feminist Faves we do at the end of every episode where we give the audience someone that inspires you. Beth, do you have one to start us off with?
Can I do 2?
Yeah, of course.
I've been watching a lot of Netflix recently because it's getting cold and I want to just stay indoors all the time, and I'm really into watching scary things. So I watched a movie the other day called The Girl with All the Gifts, which is a post-apocalyptic zombie movie, and they don't normally pass the Bechdel test. And they're normally I'm like, oh, it's a guilty pleasure because it's about one man's journey, and there might be some sexy chick that he saves from a zombie. But this was a little girl who's half zombie, so she only turns into a zombie. It's kind of like Splash when she turns into a mermaid when she's in the water. She only turns into a zombie when she's really, really hungry, or when she smells human blood or flesh. So she's but the rest of the time she's a really sweet, nice, really clever little girl. And she's looked after in this post-apocalyptic world by Gemma Arterton, who is a teacher, and Glenn Close, who is a scientist, and a couple of guys as well, but they're sort of less important than Glenn Close and Gemma Arterton's character. And so these 3 being the main characters, and none of them being sexualized at all, but it was also it was a bloody amazing gore fest that was set in post-apocalyptic London. So seeing all the sights that you recognise, all the fun that you want out of a zombie movie, but without being offensive.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah. And then the other one is there's a documentary on Netflix called Knock Down the House, which is about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a few other people who were running at the same time as her, and it was all about kind of what drove them to challenge the authority figures, the establishment figures within the Democratic Party in America. And so it's really exciting not just to see those characters as challenging the right wing, but also challenging the establishment within their own kind of liberal left bubble, and authority figures, and usually they're like the really privileged white men, and the women who are challenging them are not, and they all come from really different backgrounds, both like kind of politically, educationally, culturally, and they have their really strong personal reasons for running, which gives it like amazing documentary stuff where they're all talking about their personal journey, and you're like, I'm crying and I feel so empowered and I'm rooting for them, and then watching it now, knowing how influential that whole movement has become, is just like awesome.
I've been wanting to watch
so
that for a while.
if you like your horror in the terms of politics, then watch that. Watch that one. There from me.
Porscha, do you have anyone you want to shout about?
I was thinking about this a lot, and I was like, we were both like, who do we talk about?
Oh gosh, it would be a cop out to say every single member of the cast.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
It genuinely is the people that I'm around. Like, they inspire me so much. And I guess like my favorite thing to like big up the feminist sort of mentality is like looking at other femmes or non-femmes, but still like a humanist, people that have the humanist view. And two things. One thing that's kind of like two things. My facial hair. Seeing other femmes with facial hair. Like a couple of years ago, I saw a friend and I was like, oh my gosh, so much hair on their face. And it just, that really helped me as a person, like a female. Because I've always been told, pluck your face, and it leads to an online sort of magazine called Gurls Talk that Adwoa Aboah set up. She went to my uni, also studied drama, and I was on there one day randomly, and I just thought of that in the last minute actually. And there was a girl on there, or a femme, who had like a monobrow, and she looked so beautiful. She looked so gorgeous, and I was just like, this is what's helping, like, particularly facial hair is my point with femmes, seeing other people embrace it and show that it's a normal thing to have, and also when I saw you with download and you were like, I just like added to my natural hair on my face, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if that made much sense, but I guess the shout out is to Adwoa. And also look at the people around you, because I find when you look up and at other people, that sort of like creates this sort of separation and like a hierarchy almost for myself. So when I look at the people around me, it makes everything feel more real, as opposed to a celebrity or influencer or like someone who is seemingly so far away.
Also, the cynic in me, I always find then I'm starting asking, why are they doing, is this just for likes on Instagram? Is this actually the person they are?
Is it intention or attention? Which one is it?
Intention or attention?
Yeah.
That's really lovely. I like that.
I hope it made sense.
Yeah, it really did. It really did.
It makes
Thank
a lot of
you.
sense.
It touched me right here.
Yeah.
It's true though.
I was good. Are you a water sign, Porscha?
I am an earth sign. Earth with fire. I'm Leo Virgo cusp.
No way.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness.
I love the water though. Yeah.
It's just because we saw you as the
Because
mermaid.
the mermaid is so well suited. How about you, Millie?
Yeah, I've been kind of racking my brains and thinking very similarly to you. It's the people around, and is that a cop-out if I say like family and friends? But then I was like, okay, I've got lots of friends who are doing amazing creative stuff, and right before we started the rehearsal process, I was going through a really tough time, and I got a tattoo from a friend of mine who searched on Instagram. It's Mani.Tattoo, and she is championing kind of all the preconceptions and misconceptions about tattooing darker skin and tattooing people of colour. So she focuses on, tattooing as a sacred and ancient art, and she's amazing, and I think everyone should check it out. And if you're going to be tattooed, if you're going to let someone stick a needle in your body for a few hours, why would you choose a white cis man? Just
I've been thinking about getting a tattoo
trauma
actually.
that way.
So that's helping me. Maybe I'll go to her. So my feminist faves, my first one is a slash of a person. She's called Grace Petrie. She's a lesbian activist folk singer. She has all those sashes in her music. And I discovered her through a LOL Word gig in Edinburgh, where she came and just did a spot, and she's like, I'm not a comedian, but she is hilarious. And she just came with her guitar and did this amazing song called Black Tie, which is all about expressing yourself how you want to, and harking back to school days and thinking where you couldn't express yourself a certain way. And she has amazing lyrics that were like, the images that fucked you are the patriarchal structures, and I will never surrender to a narrow view of gender. And she's very pro butch lesbians, inclusive of trans inclusivity. And so I was thinking of her. So I saw her do a spot at a LOL Word gig in Edinburgh, and then I booked tickets to her gig this month, which I went to go see in that place in Camden. What was that place?
Coco?
That place where we went to that launch part, the Edinburgh Fest launch magazine thing.
Oh,
Dingwalls.
That's a legendary punk venue.
Yeah.
Apparently the Stranglers and the Sex Pistols or some famous punk bands all got in a fight there once.
Oh,
Of course.
Camden facts.
Yeah.
Come on tour with me.
Yeah. But her gig is just amazing, and because she straddles so many different genres, she would be like, who's seen me at a folk festival? And people would be like, yeah, who's seen me at an anarchist protest gig? And then people are like, yeah, and they're like, who's seen me in queer spaces? And so it was you could not pinpoint who her fans were, because it was literally the most mixed bag crowd of people that I've ever seen at a gig. So I'd say her, and then also kind of interspersed with that was some really really commentary I've been reading on butch identity, and there was a really great think piece article conversation that came out. I can't remember who published it. Maybe it was Butch Please, between three butch presenting people, including Martha, who runs the Dikey Spice Instagram, and Candice, who runs Gal Pals nightclub, and there was a third person who I didn't know, so unfortunately I can't say much about what they do, but they were talking about having kind of a butch mask presentation, and how for some people it was it's so linked to me for being a woman, and I don't see it as presenting as trans masc or anything. And then another person was saying oh, I identify as trans masc, and it was this really beautiful article of being that term and that expression can mean something different to all of us, and it doesn't have to be binary, it doesn't have to be one or the other, and we don't have to be at odds with each other because we relate to this word in a different way. And I was just it was just a really beautiful article to read around that. And also, kind of a similar time, there was another article that came out that was a conversation between an artist called Krishna and Laura?
From the Drakes.
Yeah, from the Drakes, their housemate. And that was equally exploring trans identity, but also very intergenerational. And it was just the most wholesome, amazing conversation ever, and you could see there was such friendship in their conversation, and how Krishna had been taken under the wing of older butchers a few years ago, and then got to explore their own trans masc identity, and yeah, that I don't know, just all of those things combined are my feminist faves, because it was just such a lovely read.
Butch babes.
Yeah. Butch babes. Yeah, so those are my feminist faves for this month. So, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so lovely talking to you. Listeners, book to see Red Palace. It's the perfect, we were saying maybe not a date,
No, maybe not. Maybe not
Depends what
like
kind
a
of
first
date,
date.
though.
Not like
Not
a
a
first
first
date
date.
because it would be a bit intense. But like, I would say bring like a small group of friends. Like, I would love to bring like my group of friends from home who I hardly ever see, but like when we all get together in the same room, it's like a big occasion. So it'd be really fun to like experience it and like go out for a drink afterwards and like pick apart like all the different elements, or like as a Christmas present for someone
Yeah.
who's really into like either fairy tales or like immersive experiences, because then you could splash out and do the whole dining with the prince thing. Yeah, so it'd be a good present, a good birthday like celebration thing to do,
My
because it's quite
friends are
special.
coming for a birthday next
Oh,
month. There's loads of them.
oh, great.
I'm trying to get like my high school group together
Oh.
to come. I think that'll be really fun.
That is cute. Well, thank you again. And
Thank
yeah, it's been lovely.
Good luck with the next 3 months.
Yeah.
It's gonna change so much.
Yeah.
It already
Yeah.
has
Run,
so
yeah.
much.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you to Millie and Porscha for a lovely chat, and thank you to Shotgun Carousel, the creators of Red Palace, for a luxurious visit to their fairy tale feminist forest. We absolutely loved it. We had an incredible time. Really recommend going if you can. The tickets start from £18 if you go for a midweek show. But it is worth, if you want a seasonal treat, splashing out on those slightly more expensive tickets, because the Prince's Feast is so delicious. It really fills you up. It makes it into a whole evening, like an event. So take someone you love with you, give it as a gift, and let us know what you thought. Red Palace is at the Vaults until January the 12th. Got a few more recommendations coming up for you to see you into November. First of all, at the Pleasance Theatre in Islington, they're bringing their best of Edinburgh Fringe shows, including Bible John and Honeybee, two great shows from Fringe that we loved. November 2nd till November 3rd. Bible John is about a serial killer. It's an ensemble devised show. It was really, really innovative, interesting angle on the whole trend of listening to serial killer podcasts. Honeybee is created by Eleanor Dillon Reams, who is actually part of the Red Palace cast. So if you see her in Red Palace and enjoy that, then you might enjoy Honeybee. If you see Honeybee, you might also enjoy her in Red Palace. So let us know what you think of those. Also at the Pleasance, Madame Ovary was one of our favourite shows at Edinburgh Fringe. It's about Rosa, who is a young woman. It's her real autobiographical story of discovering in her early 20s that she has ovarian cancer. She goes through chemotherapy. She does recover, so it's got sad elements to the story, but it's also got a lot of hope and optimism, and it is a massive rallying call to save our NHS. So we love Rosa, we loved Madame Ovary. That's on at the Pleasance from November the 8th to the 10th. Really, really worth seeing. Then at the Royal Court Theatre, A History of Water in the Middle East continues until November the 16th. This is Sabrina Mahfouz's new show. She is best known as an amazing poet and playwright. She's also performing in this show, which is based on perhaps an autobiographical experience of being recruited to be a spy, and it's about what it says in the title, The History of Water in the Middle East. Sabrina's incredible. The Royal Court is doing some great things. Go and see that from now until November the 16th. Catch it if you can. She's also just published her first and collected anthology of plays. So if you're a fan of Sabrina's work, then you can now read all of the past plays that you might not have had the chance to see. So I recommend that as well. Now we have some bad news and some good news from one of our favourite venues in London, the Bunker Theatre by London Bridge, which you may remember was where we staged some of our Bechdel Testing Life plays a couple of years ago, where we've also hosted some really amazing post-show audience discussions in the past. It is losing its venue. The Bunker team, who have done incredible work showing us the representation we want to see, featuring gender neutral toilets with sanitary products, a writer's snug where you can work for free with free hot drinks, giving the free tickets to the Black Ticket Project, cheap tickets for young people, for low income people,
They just do it all, but they are losing their space. It's so sad to see that building go, but we have no doubt that the team will keep doing that work, and it's the work that London needs. So we are trying not to feel too sad about the loss of the space, because we're hoping that it means that everyone involved can go on to bigger, better, brighter things, and a venue with maybe natural light and a lovely spacious foyer. Who knows? And until then, we are going to enjoy with full relish their amazing season that continues into 2020. Some of the shows that we recommend for the upcoming month of November are Ava Wong-Davis, I Will Still Be Whole, which you may remember Ava was a podcast guest of ours a few episodes ago when she had her show on at the Vault Festival. It has since then gone from strength to strength. It's flourishing. It's got a new cast. It's going to come alive in this big space that the bunker has, and we're excited to see that again. And then that show's actually in a double bill from the 12th till the 23rd of November with another show which sounds right up our street called Before I Was a Bear by Eleanor Tyndall. And this is a show about friendship, sexuality and hot TV detectives. Sounds great. So much so that we are hosting a post-show discussion for that one. So you can see Ava's I Will Still Be Whole and Before I Was a Bear. And if you come and see them on Thursday, the 21st of November, we will be hosting an audience discussion. So you can hang out with us and chat about the show. Let us know what you thought in person. That is free with the price of a ticket. And we've got a cheeky discount code. If you enter the code BECDEL10 when you buy your tickets for Thursday, the 21st of November, then you will get a £10 ticket to go and see Before I Was a Bear. We look forward to seeing you there. At the Bedford Theatre, which is a pub theatre in Balham in South London. It's a great space in there. There's a new show called Girl from Nowhere, which is on from November 13th to 14th. It's set in Texas in 1969. It's got an amazing rock and roll woman at the centre of it. She's like a 1960s rock star, and it's inspired by like a 60s soundtrack from The Doors and Janis Joplin, and it's pretty sexy, and it's so live music, so kind of gig theatre, but it also has original music as well. So enjoy that at the Bedford. Then moving up north at Home in Manchester, which always has incredible stuff on. Home in Manchester has one of our faves, Bryony Kimming's show, I'm a Phoenix Bitch. This has been touring for a while. We recommend it at every opportunity we can. Bryony's an incredible artist. This show is an absolute feat. It's coming to Manchester from November 26th to 30th. So if you're anywhere near Manchester, get yourself in there and see it. If you're a fan of Bryony's, if you've never seen her work, it's absolutely mind-blowing, emotional experience. So bring tissues. There's also a show at the same venue at Home in Manchester which has piqued our interest, and this is called Plant Fetish. It's a performance artist, Chanjay Kunda, was suffering from stress and anxiety and discovered that plants reduce stress. She then learnt that women in Mexico, fed up with men, were getting married to trees. So it's a love story about Chanjay falling in love with plants. Sounds wonderful. Glorious. We all need more plants in our lives. We will be keeping an eye out for that when it comes closer to where we are, so we can see it as well. On November 6th, back in London, Bethnal Green's Working Men's Club is playing host to Abortion Rights UK, who are holding an abortion cabaret. So it's all artists who have inspired by or are exploring themes to do with abortion. Lily Burton, whose show All Aboard at the Termination Station is a really, really fabulous cabaret show. She's performing. Amanda Palmer is performing. She's like a huge rock star, if you haven't heard of her. There's a whole host of different artists from all different genres all getting together to raise money for Abortion Rights UK, for a pro-choice charity. Sounds like an amazing event, not just for the entertainment, but for the cause as well. At the Rosemary Branch Theatre in London, our favourites Cold Dinner Theatre, whose show Bitches in the Ford Car, or Ford KA, came back last year. That was on last year. It was absolutely hilarious. We loved it. They are back, the same team, Cold Dinner Theatre, with a new show called Fokkin' Bring It On Lads. Fokkin is spelled Fokin. It's set in the north of England, and it's a American high school cheerleader comedy inspired show. So the tagline is like, thought cheerleading was reserved for perky Yanks? Think again. And it's inspired by shows like Mean Girls and Bring It On and Clueless, all my favourite things. And it's about a cheerleader who moves to the north of England. Oh my god, Cold Dinner Theatre, their energy is amazing. They're so funny. I am really looking forward to this one at Rosemary Branch from November 6th till 9th. Clean Break's latest production is on at the Donmar Warehouse in London. This is Blank by Alice Birch, and it's a theatrical provocation exploring the impact of the criminal justice system on women and their families. It's on till November 30th. It's got an incredible buzz around it. Everyone's talking about this show. It's kind of a, I want to say choose your own adventure. It's like 22 different scenes, and you might see them in different orders, you might see different scenes, so it's one of those where you get a really unique theatrical experience, and it's about a really important thing. Blank by Alice Birch, Donmar Warehouse till November 30th, Clean Break in their 40th anniversary year, continuing doing amazing work. Burgers, Travis Alabanza's show. You remember them, the previous podcast guest that we had on. We had a lovely chat with them when they were doing their show in Edinburgh. Burgers is currently touring, and it is selling out at most venues. It has sold out at the South Bank Centre. They even added an extra matinee for that one. It has sold out most dates in Bristol, but they've added an extra matinee for that. There are currently tickets, last time I checked their website, available in Warwick, Birmingham or Cambridge. So if you're near any of those locations, make sure you check out Burgers, because that is a hot ticket that you won't have many more chances to see unless they decide to extend it or carry it on for longer. But Travis is a very busy artist, so any chance that you get to see them, absolutely take it. This was a show where when we saw it in Edinburgh, I couldn't speak afterwards because it was so moving, it was so impactful in every single way, also very entertaining, eye-opening, galvanising, absolutely must see, I would say. I bought tickets to see it again in London, so I will see that show for the second time on its South Bank run. That's Burgers, which is on tour until December. Queens of Sheba. You might remember a long time ago we featured this on our podcast. It is about misogynoir. It's a poetic show. It's a 4-woman cast giving an all-star performance. They've just recast it, so I'd be really interested to see the new performers in it. They're all singing, all dancing, all completely connected with the audience. Queens of Sheba has to be seen to be understood, and it is on tour currently, going to Bristol, Warwick, Battersea, Essex and Leicester. So plenty of opportunities to catch that. That's Nouveau Riche, who are an amazing theatre company, producers. Follow them on social media to check out their other shows as well, because they do some beautiful, beautiful work. Trojan Horse by Lung Theatre is adapted from real testimonies of those involved in the Trojan Horse scandal, in which Muslim teachers were accused of radicalising school children. It takes a critical look at media scapegoating British values, in quotes, and the toxic prevent strategy. And it's on UK tour. It's created with the communities involved and used the real text from all the trials of the real testimonies in court that happened around this real life news case. So it's shining a light on a really important perspective on something that we probably all saw the headlines around, and it is really, really well devised with a brilliant ensemble cast, all taking on lots of different multi-roles. It is on the UK tour this autumn, going to Leeds, Manchester, Newcastle, Halifax, Liverpool, Huddersfield, Doncaster, Hull, Lancaster, Norwich, Mull, Bradford, London and Birmingham from October the 8th till November the 21st. So wherever you are in England, you'll probably have a chance to see Lung Theatre's Trojan Horse. England or Wales, I should say, as well, because it's going to mould in Wales. So do go and see that one. It's True is a hard-hitting piece from Breach Theatre. It is a battle cry adaptation of a Renaissance-era rape trial. It was on at Edinburgh Fringe 2018. It knocks the wind out of you because it is so-called historical, but absolutely like blood-boilingly relevant for today's audiences. That is on UK tour to Manchester, Doncaster, Sheffield, Nottingham, Newcastle, East Riding, Warwick, Salisbury, York, Plymouth, Oxford, Halifax and Leeds. We're trying to cover as many shows as possible currently that are touring around the UK, mostly in England, and we're hoping to get out to maybe do some events around these shows. But let us know if there's any that we haven't covered that are outside of the London bubble, because we're really keen to let listeners know all over the country where they can catch amazing feminist theatre. Back home where we are in London, we've got some recommendations from Camden People's Theatre, of course, one of our favourite venues. Teddy Lamb's Since You've Been Gone, another previous podcast guest. Their show is a nostalgic pop culture mashup about grief and healing with lovely live music. It is sincere but never sentimental. It's about them connecting with their past self and Kelly Clarkson. So Since You've Been Gone is at Camden People's Theatre from November the 9th till November the 20th. And then from November the 26th to 30th, Hannah Maxwell's I Am Dram, which bridges the gap between the worlds of amateur dramatics and live art, because she talks about her experience growing up in a amateur dramatics dynasty and then going to university and discovering live art. So it's about how she kind of reconciles those two worlds. It's also a really kind of heartwarming coming out story about telling her family that she's gay, discovering her sexuality in amongst the world of cheesy regional amateur musical theatre productions. It's really, really sweet, really, really lovely. Recommend if you just want a night of gorgeous entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, Soho Theatre, I've got a comedy recommendation for you. Desiree Birch's Desiree's Coming Early. It is an existential journey of a storytelling show. It's not just stand-up, it is jokes that tell a full life transformation story, resonating emotionally, politically, philosophically, and it is hilarious. She has the energy, the timing, the punchlines. She's just an awesome presence. Desiree Birch is at Soho Theatre from November 11th till November 23rd. That is all the recommendations we have for you in November. Let us know if you enjoyed them. Tell us what you thought. If you didn't enjoy them, we always want to hear from you. Get in touch with us on all the social medias, Instagram and Twitter at Bechdel Theatre, or drop us an email at hello@bechdelltheatre.com, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Enjoy! Bye!